Guten Tag alle, Herr Wallace here. This is the latest video in a series of videos working with the German case system and attempting to explain to you how it works and how it is formed. So, if you are having problems with determining the correct case in German, take a look at this video and others like it on our website at www.germanforspalding.org, and on the page under Herr Wallace's YouTube video archives you will find under the heading cases, different cases, you will see many of our videos over this particular topic. Okay, first let's start and say that English and German both have cases. So it's not that unusual. It's yet another example really of how the two languages are similar to each other. The difference is that in America, at least, when we learn English, we don't always identify nouns as nominative, accusative, or dative, but rather we identify them as subject, direct object, indirect object. And I think this is one of the reasons why there's so much confusion for English speakers, at least, when learning German. So let's take a look at a typical English sentence. I can bring him the bottle. In this sentence, I have a subject. Think of that as the nominative. I have an indirect object. Think of that as the dative. And I have a direct object. Think of that as the accusative. So you see, we already have these. We just don't always recognize them as that. Now, in a German sentence, the same sentence in German, ich kann ihm die Flasche bringen. So here I have a subject, again, nominative case. Ihm, again, indirect object, dative case. And the bottle is the direct object. Now you'll notice, just looking at this, that on the end of the German sentence we have a verb. This is different. In English, our verbs are together. I can bring. But in German, there's a class of verbs called modal verbs, and they push the other verb to the end, something that Mark Twain used to good effect when he basically talked about the German language and the need to wait to the end to be able to tell exactly what the sentence was trying to say. So this is our two examples, the same sentence in English and in German, but in both sentences we have examples of these three cases, the nominative, accusative, and dative. So today in this video, I want to say at the outset that there are four cases in German: the nominative, the accusative, the dative, and the genitive. And we're going to look in this video at the nominative, the accusative, and the dative, and we're going to save the genitive for another video. But the good news is we've already made several videos about the genitive, so you can go on our website and look at that. Okay, so let's start with the nominative case, or der Verfall. The nominative case in German and English is for the subject of a sentence. Now the subject is the thing that is doing the action in the sentence, the carrying out of the action. The term nominative is from Latin, of course, and it means to name. So think of nominate. Nouns are considered to be in the nominative case when they are the subject of a sentence. So first of all, don't get confused about the Latin terms nominative, accusative, and dative. Think of them also as subject, direct object, indirect object. But as we will see, they're more than that, and we're going to get to that. Okay, so let's just take a look at some examples. Der Hund hat mich gebissen. The dog is the subject of this sentence, and I've outlined it in red. It is therefore nominative. Das Auto ist ganz schnell. The car is the subject of the sentence. Das Klassenzimmer ist sehr groß. The classroom is the subject of the sentence. This is not very difficult, as we all learn how to identify the subject of the sentence in the beginning. Now in German, unlike, well, you also have this in English, but again, the differences you will see will be more extreme in German. We have nominative case pronouns. So we have ich for I, du for the informal you, which is also different from English because in English we only have one you, but in German they have a formal and an informal, just as they do in Spanish. Er, sie, and then for that third person singular, there's a little trick you need to know about, and that is German nouns come in three genders: masculine, der words, I call them, feminine, die words, and neuter, or das words. And when you are referring back to a noun, for example, that's a masculine noun, you can refer back to it with er as a subject or nominative pronoun, or sie if it was a die word, or s if it was a das word. And we'll get into that a little bit more. Nominative case has changes, okay, to the adjective endings. And this is really, if you are just beginning, then don't let this throw you. Adjective endings are very tough, I think, for learners in German when people are learning it for the first time. But the biggest thing is to be able to identify the case. And once you've identified the case, I always tell people there's a 3-step process for getting to the right adjective ending. 1, determine the case of the noun in the sentence. 2, determine whether you're saying the, which is a definite article, or a, an indefinite article. And then thirdly is to figure out what the noun was originally, masculine, der, die, or das. So here I have der Hund, which stays der. So the good news is in the nominative with the definite articles, der is der, die is die, das is das, die is die, nothing changes. And the endings for the singular are always e on the adjective, except for the plural, which is en. Now, if you're using an indefinite article, or a, der words will be ein, die words will be eine, das words will be ein. And look at the more extreme changes to the adjectives. Think of it this way. By looking at ein, you cannot tell the gender of the German noun Hund. So the system in German allows for this by putting this er ending on the adjective to tell you clearly that this is a masculine noun. Die has the e ending and es for das. Let's look at some examples. Ich bin ein netter Mann. Ich is the subject pronoun, nominative case. And ein netter Mann is also nominative. We're going to talk about this next. But look at how Mann is a der word. So we have ein, and I have an er onto net, netter Mann, ein netter Mann. Du bist mein bester Freund. And here's an interesting thing. All the possessive pronouns, mein, dein, sein, ihr, unser, all of these take the same endings as these right here in the nominative case. So, du bist mein bester Freund. And then, ihr habt die Hausaufgabe nicht gemacht. Alright, the nominative case also occurs, okay, think of first of all that it is the subject of a sentence, but secondly, it can occur in the predicate of a sentence. How does this happen? In English, it's called the predicate nominative. In German, this occurs after certain verbs. And the most predominant verb this is going to occur after is a conjugation of the verb sein. Bin, bist, ist, sind, seid, any of those. But it may also occur after bleiben, heißen, werden, and scheinen in specific circumstances. Okay, so das ist der Mann. Here we have der Mann is nominative, and because it comes after a conjugation of the verb sein, in this case ist, which I've highlighted in green. The man is the predicate nominative, basically. Another sentence, der Mann wird Lehrer. So the man is the subject, and we're coming after a form of the verb werden here, wird, but another way to distinguish the predicate nominative for the verbs and when it occurs after bleiben, heißen, werden, and scheinen is to think, is the subject of the sentence and the object of the sentence the same? So in this case it is, and when that's the case, it's a predicate nominative. Alright, the last example, er bleibt ein guter Freund. Here we have another predicate nominative after the conjugation of the verb bleiben. Okay, now the accusative case, the main role of the accusative case, unlike the nominative, remember the nominative signals the subject of a sentence or comes after certain verbs. The accusative case signals the direct object. The direct object is nothing more than what receives the action of the verb. So if I say, der Mann hat den Kuli gefunden, what did the man find? What was found? The pin. So this is a direct object. And notice how der Kuli changed to den. That's going to be a change that you'll see in the accusative. And I always tell my students, remember accusative, der changes to den, die and das stay the same. Ich habe ihn nicht gesehen. I haven't seen him. Ihn, direct object of the sentence. You have accusative case pronouns. Again, these are mich, dich, ihn, sie, es for the third person singular, uns, euch, and then sie. I always tell my students the accusative case, remember all the sie stay sie. So, ich sehe sie, I see her. Ich sehe sie, I see you formal, or ich sehe sie, I see them. Some people always ask me, well, Mr. Wallace, if sie means three different things, how can I tell what it means? And the answer is always context. What context is it used in, and what is the subject of the sentence prior to it? So those are the accusative case pronouns. Now, when a noun, and again, nouns in German come basically in three flavors: masculine, feminine, neuter, also the plural. Then der changes to den, die and das stay the same. But look at the endings on the adjective. These endings here for feminine, neuter, and plural nouns are basically the same as they were in the nominative, but the direct object has added an en to match the den. So den kleinen Hund. And if it's an indirect object, it'd be if it's an indefinite article, then it'd be einen kleinen, whereas these are the same as they were in the nominative. So some examples. Ich kann den Hund sehen, sie hat den braunen Hut angezogen, hast du die schöne Frau gesehen? All right, now the accusative can also occur after certain accusative prepositions. These are prepositions that always take an accusative object, such as durch, für, gegen, ohne, bis, entlang, and wieder. Now, rennt durch den Regen. He runs through the rain. Der Regen, changing to den because it's accusative. Das ist für den Hund. Der Hund, changing to den because it's accusative. Lehnt gegen die Wand. Remember my rhyme? Der changes to den. What do die and das do? They stay the same. So die Wand is die. Ich kann ohne dich nicht leben. Here we have the personal pronoun for you in the accusative case. Wir sitzen den Tisch, der Tisch to den. Wir warten bis die nächste Woche. Bummelt die Straße entlang. And one thing about entlang is it often occurs after its object, unlike all of these, which you can see I've highlighted in blue, occur after the preposition. Entlang can come after the object. And then wieder is no longer used in common use in Germany, but it still lives on in certain idiomatic expressions, and that's why I've included it here. Now, most greetings and wishes are also in the accusative case. For example, Guten Morgen, angenehme Reise, gute Besserung, besten Dank, schönen Tag, schönes Wochenende, viel Vergnügen, oder at New Year's, Guten Rutsch. Okay. The accusative case also occurs in a number of adverbial constructions, especially when denoting length of time. And I've got a few examples for you here. Es hat den ganzen Tag geregnet. Ich habe ihn letzten Montag gesehen. Mein Freund war einen Monat in Atlanta. The accusative case is used as well to express distance with verbs and adverbs denoting motion. Hin and her are some examples of adverbs. So, for example, ist den ganzen Weg zu Fuß gegangen. Ich bin die Straße heruntergekommen. Sie kam den Berg herauf. So these are examples. All right, now the dative case, the last case we're going to talk about in this video. And again, if you need clarification with each case individually, go check out our videos that are already on our YouTube channel that are categorized on our website, www.germanforspalding.org, under Herr Wallace's YouTube video archive. So, what is the dative? Remember, let's recap. The subject is a subject, comes after certain verbs. The accusative is the direct object, comes after certain prepositions, and also occurs in specific phrases and constructions. And then you have the dative. Now the dative is to mark the indirect object. And remember, the indirect object is what receives the action of the verb indirectly. So it's to whom or for whom something's given, done, bought, etc. The dative case also can occur after certain dative prepositions. So we're going to look at those in a minute. Here's an example. Der Student hat dem Lehrer seine Arbeit gegeben. The Lehrer here is the indirect object, so der changes to dem. Now we take a look at our dative case pronouns. Again, our third person singular pronouns can use to be referred to objects, not only people. Mir, dir, ihm, ihr. And then for objects it could be ihm, ihr, ihm. Uns, euch, ihnen, und ihnen. Okay. Dative case changes to the definite article. Der is dem, die is der, das ist dem, and the plural becomes den. And then the adjective endings, though, are easy to memorize because it's just en. And one thing I want to point out here is that when you have the dative plural, you have den, plus you're adding an n or en onto the noun. In this case, the plural is Freunde, so we just add an n, so make it Freunden. If we are talking about indefinite articles, or a in English, it'd be der ist einem, die ist einer, das ist einem, and again, all the adjectives are ending in en. So, what are some examples? Ich habe ihm die Kamera gegeben. I have given him the camera. What did I give the camera? To whom? Him. Hast du der Frau die Blumen gebracht? Have you brought the lady the flowers? What did you brought? What have you brought the flowers for who? The lady. Okay, the dative case can also occur after dative prepositions. So these are prepositions that always take in a dative object. So here's some examples. Aus, rennt aus dem Haus. Außer, sie waren alle da, außer mir. Bei, ist momentan bei der Arbeit. Mit, tanzt mit der Frau. Nach dem Essen spaziere ich. Seit diesem Tag vertraut ihr mir nicht. Von, das ist von meinem Vater oder von meiner Mutter. Ich gehe zu der oder zur Schule. Gegenüber, die Schule ist gegenüber dem Rathaus. Entgegen, wir laufen dem Tod entgegen. So these are just examples of prepositional phrases using dative prepositions. Okay, remember this is just an overview. One other thing to point out about the dative is that dative can also occur after dative verbs. So these verbs always take a dative object, and I'm just going to give you some of the more common verbs here for a more complete listing. See our video over them, or simply Google dative verbs in German, and I'm sure you'll be able to get a more comprehensive list. Kannst du mir helfen? Antworte mir. Ich danke dir. Ich rate dir. Folgen. Folgen Sie mir bitte. Du fehlst mir. Ich glaube dir nicht. Ich gratuliere dir. Kann ich dir vertrauen? Das Buch gehört mir. So in all these instances we have a dative object because, not because it's an indirect object or not because it comes after a dative preposition, but because it's used of the object of a dative verb. So that's an added little twist with the dative you have to watch out for. Okay, well, this video is probably long enough. Ich hoffe, dass es ein bisschen geholfen hat. I hope it helped a little in trying to understand these cases. Again, I encourage you to check out all our videos that we've made over this particular topic in the past by checking out our website, or join us online on Facebook at German Language Learners. Okay, auf Wiedersehen und tschüss.